I started this business by listening to a podcast, as simple as that. What's going on, guys? In today's video, I'll be going over how I started my Airbnb business and how you can too. Literally anyone that has a few $1,000s saved up can start this opportunity, start generating cash flow in real estate. So I had this thought in my mind. I was like, hey, I'm gonna get involved in real estate somewhere or another. Initially, the idea sprung into my mind when I heard a podcast going over the business model, pretty much how it could benefit anyone that wants to start making money in real estate. And I sort of, listened to this podcast once and I was like, okay, this is a great idea. I listened to it twice and then I initially I guess it was my intuition telling me, hey, I have to do this. I have to act on this now. So pretty much the idea sort of sat on my mind for a long time. I had this thought, it wouldn't leave my mind. So I was like, I'm gonna do what I have to do to get the ball rolling. Now, in this podcast that I listened to, and I can link it down below, it was a self-made man podcast featuring some dude that does this full time. After hearing this podcast and hearing the way that this guy started, I was like, dude, listen, if this guy can do it, I can do it as well. So why not? And so I pretty much implemented the exact same steps that this guy did in order to get my business up and going. And of course, there's always little things that are hidden that popped up that I had to sort of deal with on my own. But for the most part, the structure of the business model was inspired by this podcast, which is another good reason for you guys to listen to podcasts instead of listening to music for entertainment. I'll leave that for another topic, another video. But I really encourage you guys to listen to podcasts, and I really encourage that part of self-development, and it's a really good motivating factor in your life. I had a subscriber comment, let us know a little bit more about how you got started, and so I'm going to break that down. Listen to a podcast, had the idea in my mind, right? So this guy was doing it successfully, and I decided to just pretty much incorporate what he did in my own life. So what this guy was doing, he had multiple properties. Like I mentioned in one of my previous videos, I mentioned you want to scale this to the best of your ability. You want to have multiple properties generating you income on a monthly basis. There's no better way to do that than to do it the way that I started with this property. This idea may not sit well with a lot of people, and I know the perspective from the landlord side and the perspective from the renter side, and I've sort of done my research on it. I'm renting this property and I have a written agreement with the landlord that says I can host an Airbnb in this property. And that's pretty much what it comes down to, and that's how you can scale very quickly. You can move up in how many properties you have is by negotiating with multiple landlords and figuring out a medium ground where they allow you to host in their own property. So I'm 21, not a really good credit score, not a lot of cash up front to just start investing in multiple properties. And what better way for me to get started than to start by renting these properties and still, paying the monthly rent and having the margin for profit at the end of the month. And that's what it comes down to. So this property, I negotiated a deal with the landlord. He had his lawyer write up a contract. He pretty much gave me the contract saying, hey, I'm allowed to host an Airbnb in his property. I hope that answers the question, how did I get started? So that's exactly how I started. I sat with a landlord and I negotiated a deal allowing me to use his property to generate cash flow. I can help you guys out. If you have any questions, just leave them down below. This may be an unpopular opinion with some people just because they think that it's subleasing, but it's really not subleasing. You're operating a short-term rental. So you have to come to an agreement with the landlord. So anyone, let's say you're 18 years old, you don't have the money to buy a house, you don't have money to put 20% down on an investment property. What do you have? You have whatever amount of cash you have saved up. You can use that to start generating multiple thousands a month and start generating real estate cash flow. So pretty much after I got everything figured out on the legal side, I set up my LLC, and I set up everything, on the business aspect of things. And I just got in here and I furnished the place. So after doing all that, I pretty much set up this Airbnb property based off of what I would want when I went and stayed at multiple Airbnbs across the states. I decided, hey, a good Airbnb needs this, this, and this. So to sum it up, I think, it's fairly simple on how I got started. I got the initial idea was inspired by podcasts, and I was like, if this guy can do it, I can as well. My camera just died, so I'm back in my office getting that figured out. For the outro of this video, I pretty much want to sum up what I was saying earlier. So I listened to a podcast, I got inspired, I was like, dude, this is working for somebody else, I'll make it work for myself. I went out and I found a landlord and we negotiated a deal, and I brought value to him in some way, shape, or form to where he was willing to let me use this property as an Airbnb rental. You have to bring value to the landlord. If you just go up to the landlord and say, hey, let me use your property, he may not really want to hear you out, and he may say, get out of my face, you're wasting my time. If it's a win-win for you and the landlord, then it'll be a done deal. And I've talked to multiple landlords, and I've been, landlords have told me, dude, get out of my face. So you kind of have to do a little bit of exploring, a little bit of digging, and it's not that hard. Once you get your first property, you'll have the social proof needed to go out and be like, hey, this is working for this landlord. Can we work something out? And it sort of helps you a lot moving forward. That's why I think this opportunity is so easy for anyone to get started, because you don't need any real estate up front. You just need a few $1,000s to buy the furniture, buy everything needed, buy all the amenities required to host a comfortable Airbnb. Be sure to like the video, hit the notification bell, subscribe if you haven't already, and thank you guys once again for staying tuned, and I'll see you in the next video.